Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Don Odell's Legends. My name is Art Tipaldi. I'm the editor of Blues Music Magazine, the largest blues magazine in the country. And on our cover of our latest magazine, our co-cover story, we have George Thorogood, but we also have the legendary godfather of British blues, John Mayall. John, welcome to Palmer, Massachusetts.
Good, indeed. It's quite a reception here.
Yeah. John, everyone calls you and refers to you in the press as the godfather of the blues, but really there are people before you who you learned from. Who were the major influences that
my influences are way too many. You know,
Yeah.
so all the boogie woogie giants and just about everybody. I mean, I had an exposure to American blues right from as long as I can remember.
Right. And that was your dad's record collection? And
No, not really. It was that was maybe a starting point.
Yeah.
I think when a person's interested in music, they find their own feet and their own direction.
That's right.
And their own favorites. But I'm never able to answer that question because there's so many people that are involved. There's not only one.
Yeah. Were you playing an instrument early on? Did you pick up, I know, piano and harmonica being the main instrument? Were you playing those as a young?
About 14.
Okay.
Something like that, yeah.
And at 14, that would have been in the 40s, late 40s.
Yeah,
The music you must have been listening to must have been a very different kind of blues than what we listen to today. You're listening to...
I suppose so, yeah. It would have been, the blues is always, relevant in that it reflects what's going on around at any given particular time in history. So, it was all, folk blues and all sorts of other things. All the Chicago piano players.
Right.
Big Bill Bruins. I mean, there's a huge list.
That's right. And of course, in the early 50s, you must have started getting the chess records of Muddy and Wolf and Walter.
No, not really, because that they weren't available. But that was the late 50s, early 60s. I guess that was happening.
Okay. Why do you think American blues resonated so deeply with British teenagers, young men like yourself in the 50s?
Well, it was something different. It had a helping of trad jazz for 10 years, and they were ready for something new. And it was the beginning of the 60s when all sorts of things were evolving in fashion and music, in art, in everything around. So the music of our rhythm and blues and blues, was something that was right for the time.
Right. Looking back now, can you elaborate on your position in keeping American blues alive, and other British artists like the Stones and Van Morrison, the Animals?
Well, we're just lucky that we have an audience, which is good, and it's down to the fact that, we try to be relevant and have the energy to reach people of any generation. So. The blues and jazz are not something that have anything to do with hit parades, really. I mean, it's just it's a roots music.
Yeah. I mean, they're really, when I look back and I've talked to some people like Jack Bruce and some others from England at the festival in Norway, they've said that the blues really resonated. There was something in that human cry that really resonated with young teens in Britain at that time.
Yeah, like I say, it was a change from the trad jazz scene.
Yeah. You're 30 years old, and now you decide to start a blues band. What made you decide to start a band?
Well, it was natural because Alexis and Cyril had started off the movement, and so now there was an audience and an interest. It was what I'd always played, so it was a no-brainer really to go down to London and put a band together.
Right. Now you mentioned Alexis and Cyril, and I would sort of put those in as major influences on the British blues scene. What was their part in that?
Well, they were the foundation stone. They're the ones that opened the first club that was presenting this kind of music, and it grew from there.
Yeah. Was either one of them involved in the skiffle movement? Would that have been Alexis?
Yeah, I think Alexis and maybe Cyril too. I don't really know.
Yeah. Can you tell our viewers what that London club scene might have been like in those early 60s, those early days of...
It was very exciting, you know, so it was, everybody felt that they were, you know, doing something useful in music and enjoying it. So
Yeah.
it was nice that we all had an audience.
Yeah. Your early years before you got your record deal, was that simply playing in clubs in London and working out the kinks of the Blues Breakers band?
I guess so. You know, any musician, you've got to start somewhere, playing live, you know, so.
What kind of reputation did the Blues Breakers have in London with all of these major bands like the Stones and the Beatles and the Animals, Dave Clark Five?
I have no way to answer that. You know, we were all on the same circuit and playing the same clubs, and you know, everybody knew everybody, so.
Right. In those days, did you get a chance to see the American folk blues festivals?
Yeah, I saw all the ones that came over in the 50s, yeah.
And your impression of American bluesmen when you saw them live, what was that like?
Well, very exciting, of course. You know, you get to meet your heroes and hear them play, and you know, so it's very important.
Yeah, and I read early on you toured, or you did British tours with John Lee Hooker.
Yeah, that was the first club tour where they, you know, put an American bluesman with a British band.
And what do those guys teach? What do they teach a young John Mayall about the blues?
I guess, you know, you learn a lot of dynamics from the, you know, you don't have to necessarily play loud in order to get across.
Yeah.
So that was the main thing.
Yeah, and Sonny Boy too. You played with him.
Yeah, Sonny Boy, Eddie Boyd, Brownie McGee, Sonny Terry.
Wow,
it's quite a long list.
Yeah, of characters.
Yeah.
What was their impression of the British blues scene?
Well, they were glad to get an audience in Europe. You know, they were very happy that they could escape the racial problems of America, you know, where they were ignored.
Right,
so
right.
They come to Europe, and everybody in Europe is going crazy about them. So.
Yeah, yeah. I know that for myself, it was that early exposure to the Animals, to Cream, to Jimmy, to the Stones that turned me on to blues. Because then
that's the way it went for most people. Yeah, so. It did a lot of good for the movement.
I think so, because you folks really, and I say it over and over again, you brought the blues back to America, and got us excited about who Muddy Waters was, or Robert Johnson, etc.
Yeah, you start digging into where it all comes from and find out all this great stuff.
It becomes a great little journey of research. Yeah.
For everyone, it's a journey.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Before you got Eric into the band, what was the secret for your success in the early days?
Well, I wouldn't call it success, really. We were all the bands were working steadily, and that's the way it was.
But as a band leader, what was your personal secret of your success? The driving.
I have no idea how to explain that. You know, you're a band leader, or you're not, and you know what you want, and you know what musicians to pick in order to reflect your ideas. Yeah, yeah. Did you always see yourself as a band leader in these? Yeah, absolutely. As opposed to just being a part of the band? Yeah. Yeah. How did you, everybody looks now at the Eric Clapton joining the Blues Breakers in '65. How did you get him to, was it a case of Eric being the name to come to the Blues Breakers, or the Blues Breakers being the name to attract an Eric Clapton? I don't know. He didn't like what the Yardbirds were doing when they got a hit record, and so he left. And so that opened the way for me to offer him the job with the band, so he joined. What was his impact for that year he was with you? Well, everybody knows Eric and what an impact he had, so it was very exciting, of course. Yeah. Did that kind of thing validate you and the Blues Breakers having him, or do you think that the Blues Breakers validated Eric? I don't know how you'd divide them up, really. They went in tandem. Yeah, yeah. But do you think that him playing with the Blues Breakers? It elevated the whole thing, of course. Drew a lot more people. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What were some of the pluses of having him be with you?
Well, the music, his contribution to the music.
Were you, at that point, teaching the Eric Claptons, the Peter Greens, the Mick Taylors? Were you teaching them the blues the way that you had learned it from?
Not really, no. I mean, a band leader chooses musicians that can, you know, can be a part of what you're doing, you know. So I don't know. I don't think we analyze it too much.
Yeah, yeah. But so there's, because I talked to Coco and Walter, they're two very dear friends, Debbie Davies, and they tell me the lessons that they learned from John Mayall, Mr. Mayall.
Well, you know, if you choose a musician, you're choosing him for his individuality, and you want to feature that. So you're focusing on that aspect.
Right. So because of that, I would imagine that through the years and the various incarnations of the Blues Breakers band, you have to be pretty aware of what each musician you bring into the band brings as a strength, and make sure that you can highlight that.
I guess so. You know, you don't think about those things, you know.